Hey, 1, 2, guys. How are you? I hope you had a lovely Easter Sunday. I sure did, if you celebrate. Um, I wanted to just kind of go through a little introduction for the week. Um, on your classwork, under Asking the Right Questions, your assignment this week is mostly from your book, Asking the Right Questions. And you're going to be looking at chapters 5, 6, 7, and then you're going to skip 8 and 9 for right now and go to 10. The reason for that is uh, chapter 8 and 9 are kind of a split section, and I didn't want to split them in half, like one this week and one next week. I thought it would be better to do them both together. So 8 and 9 kind of deal with evidence. Chapters 5, 6, 7, and 10 are going to deal with getting more into the judgmental part of arguments. So the first part, when you're looking at an argument, we've talked about identifying the issue and the conclusion and the reasons. Those are kind of the big main things that you want to find initially. You also want to keep in mind the first section, I think in chapter 5, is where you look for what's ambiguous. Now, just quickly, ambiguous means that when you look at a word, it means more than one thing. And I think we've talked about this a little bit in class, but I think it's worth just discussing here again and then later in the week. Ambiguity means that what somebody says can mean more than one thing. So if I say, sign up for gym, it's going to be really great. My idea of great might be different than somebody else. I like lifting weights and doing some cardio stuff. Other people might not enjoy that so much, but they might enjoy if gym was more focused on sports. So if they did mostly basketball, that might be great for somebody. That would not be great for me. I don't enjoy playing basketball as much. I'm okay with it, but I don't like jamming my fingers. But if someone says, sign up for this gym class, it's great, that doesn't really tell me all the information I need. Okay, so that's something you want to keep in mind, especially if it changes the outcome of an argument. I'll tell you guys a story about that on Tuesday, about ambiguity. The next thing you want to keep in mind is value and descriptive assumptions. Now, I will admit, guys, that this is maybe one of the harder concepts in this book, but we will spend, I do have a scenario I want to talk about with you guys on Tuesday. So chapter 5 and 6, we're going to talk about heavily on Tuesday. But I'll walk you through and kind of help you think about it. But this value and descriptive assumptions are really important in an argument. And this, as you'll see in like the PowerPoint in this section, takes a lot of ingenuity and reading between the lines, but it's important in argument for sure. On Thursday, we're going to talk about logical fallacies, and I have 2 PowerPoints on this because there's so many. And then I want to talk about rival causes. So when we look at logical fallacies, the idea behind this is when you look at someone's reasoning, that there might be something wrong with it. So an example, I'll just do one. The first one that you're going to probably encounter is called ad hominem. And this is where instead of attacking a person's argument, you attack the person. And I think this is something we tend to do. Sometimes, if there's a person that I don't like very much, like I've worked with people before that I don't really care much for. And as a result of that, I sometimes am too dismissive of their opinions or ideas. So if someone says an idea and I just think, well, I don't really like that person, that's a fallacy because I'm dismissing them because of my personal feelings. Sometimes a person can have fantastic ideas, but I might have a personal vendetta against them or vice versa. That's a fallacy. And there's all sorts of logical fallacies out there. Some of them have several names, some of them have, a few. But I would like you guys to kind of be conscientious of them. Even when you're looking at your arguments, if you can't remember the name of it, I do want you to recognize that there's something wrong with this argument. They're looking at this maybe in a poor way. So we'll talk more about that on Thursday. And then rival causes. This deals with when I come to a conclusion of an argument. There's a lot of things in arguments that we know the end result. So, for instance, we know why World War II happened, or we know that World War II happened. We know that Vietnam happened. We know that the COVID pandemic happened. But there's a lot of debate as to why it's happening in the way it did, or things that led up to it. And this is where people might have argument. We know COVID happened. We know World War II happened. Why? Okay. And it's not always a simple black and white answer. This is where we look at rival causes, because some people say, this is absolutely the reason why this happened. We sometimes have to think about, is there another reason why this might happen? Because sometimes this influences policy or decisions that are really important, and sometimes the wrong decision is made because we don't consider all the possibilities. So those are the two sections I want you to think about. Assignment-wise on this, guys, when you click on this, like you did for chapters 3 and 4, you have sample questions at the very end where you analyze a short paragraph. I would like you to do that for each of these chapters. So for chapter 5, there is 3 samples that you want to read through the first 2, but you want to answer question 3 because it doesn't provide that, but I want to see your thinking. You want to do that in all 4 chapters. In addition to that, guys, I want to make your reading a little bit more meaningful so it's not just something you breeze through. So I know I think Alexa did this one, or one of you guys did this one, but get a knife, get a dog, or get rid of guns. I want you to think about each of these chapters in conjunction with that. So as you read through it, maybe read this story or essay through again, and this can be found in your Norton Brown book under op-eds, and I also put a post for it, I think, online, a link for it. So, what words or phrases are ambiguous? That might be something that you look into and describe why. Well, I do want you to look into it. I want you to think about value and descriptive assumptions. What are things that are being assumed here? What are we looking between the lines? Why is this issue important to this author? What are some fallacies? I would like you in this case to try to name them since they'll be fresh. Just do the best you can. I'm not going to necessarily, I'll correct you if I think you're wrong, but I'm not going to severely dock you if I think you're completely off base. Okay. But just, write them and describe why you think it's a fallacy. That's more important to me than if you get the name absolutely right. And then I want you to think of rival causes. I think in this essay, the conclusion that he makes, he doesn't come up with like an absolute, like this happened, but there is things that he insinuates that you might consider alternative reasons for, or something to that effect. Okay, so I had to only do one example there. All right, well, anyways, guys, I think that is all that we need to really be doing this week as far as this assignment goes. I would like you guys, again, if you need to review paper 2, and if you've not chosen an essay, a co-op piece at this point, you really should have one by the end of this week and be doing some work on that. I would encourage you, again, please don't use the same essay again that you used from your first paper, which I'm going to be grading early this week. But you can certainly use an essay that we've looked at in class, or you can branch out a little bit and look at something else. But yeah, that's about all I have. So you guys come with questions on Tuesday and Thursday. And again, I'm always happy to meet outside of those times if you need additional guidance or help. If you want me to look over anything, just let me know, okay? All right, you lot. I will see you on Tuesday.